All right. So Rory, you and I were talking, this podcast is normally all about business stuff. We dive deep into more of like the, affiliate model, and we share a lot of our insight and what we're going through at our gyms. But as of right now, there's a lot of businesses that, some of these gym owners could just use some like comedic relief. And I thought, hey, what no better way than to get Rory on the mic, and let's just start talking about the old school days of CrossFit, bring people back, give them 30 minutes just to kind of recharge their brains and turn off the TV from, the news, and just kick it old school. So where should we start, man? You got into this thing a long time ago. I know I did too, but where should we start?
Well, I mean, let's start right there, right? Because I think, let's blend the two first before we even get into memory lane. Like, I think it's an interesting topic that you do have to be able to laugh, man. Like, I pity people who who they take themselves too seriously as well as life, right? Because in a time like this, of course, there are real problems. Of course, there are considerations and concerns, and people are like in dire straits with business. So I totally get that. But at the same time, sometimes life is just so crazy. Like, you have to laugh. And actually, maybe this is a good segue. Is you'll remember my seminar experience with CrossFit really only started about maybe 18 months or barely 2 years before you. And there was what they used to say was educate, inspire, then and only then entertain. And I can't tell you how many times I got the feedback that was like, yo, dude, you're putting entertainment in front of everything.
Same here.
So maybe that's like what we're trying to do today, right? We're trying to put entertainment first so that people can kind of take a vacation from their concerns. But yeah, man, I before the cameras were rolling, I said, I've gone all the way back in some archive footage. So I thought that might be fun for people from a kind of a perspective of, if you're, whether or not you're new to it, if you're old school, you'll probably enjoy some memories. And I think that you add in particular some really good insight, especially when it comes to game stuff or actually where this conversation started, because the Rogue versus Again Faster thing got published. And people who had never seen that probably have no idea what that was.
Oh man, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched the Rogue versus Again Faster Tahoe Throwdown, you're really missing out on something pretty special. That was a moment in time that was just so unique. That was 2010, I think. And
2010, yeah.
Yeah. And leading up to that, I mean, it was just like, oh man, we rented these 2 baller houses in Tahoe, and which fortunately for you and I, it was only like a 3-4 hour drive. But yeah, people flew in from all over. You had Bill Henniger coming in, and the Rogue and Katie, and then it was just like
and set the stage. Like, this was, I mean, for you were a superstar by this point already. You won in 2008, and we're still like, you were like just starting your heyday, but there was still there was really no big endorsement deals. There were no this was the start of that whole era. So the fact that people even got flown somewhere to compete was a big deal.
It was a huge deal. And it was a huge deal. And back then, Camille and Dave Lipson, I don't know if people know this, but that's where they met.
That's right.
That's kind of like the backstory. I remember we were at our house, and I was in the Rogue house, and I want to say she was I can't remember which one was at the Again Faster house, because I was in the Rogue house, and I remember Dave, I can't remember who was in what house, but I remember them saying like, oh, he's cute, or she's cute, or something like that. And there was like some sparks starting to be created, and some it's so funny how that worked out, man. Now she's pregnant and they're about to have a kid.
Yes. And well, and for me, it's funny to look back too, because our kids are fairly similar in age. Well, I guess our daughters are fairly similar in age, but I've got the older son, and he was already born by that point in time. And so I remember feeling ancient, because here's all the kids who were CrossFit Games athletes, and I had a kid literally running around that house. We were staying out in some of the guest quarters or whatever, but for me, it was really funny to see Thor's daughter's pregnant. You've got 2 kids. I remember back then being like, man,
yeah,
we're in different stages of life. Yeah.
Going to the Again Faster Rogue Throwdown, because that's one of the reasons why we started this conversation, was, it was just like the events were just like random. Remember that time we were just like at a hill, and Dave's like, hey, everybody needs to run up this hill as fast as you can, and whoever gets to the top basically wins as a team. And you had like Miko Stilo and all these OGs just sprinting up this hill. You remember that one?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And yeah, cause you know, I went back a couple times. And Miles Lewis he's a great dude. He owns CrossFit Avalanche, and he was our host back then.
Oh
And you
yeah,
can see like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you remember like his eyes were just out of his head. And yeah, he did fantastic. But I remember him kind of telling us, you know, what it was all about. The other thing was that you could even see it back. For me as a kind of an announcer and a media person, like who's a massive fan of the sport, I also remember some of the interactions where it was like, oh yeah, we're having fun, but this is serious. Like there was a couple of that where they put people head to head, and it was Dave Castro at his best because he was sparking the flame, right? But even like Graham Holmberg versus Rich Froning. And
No.
do you remember that one?
Oh yeah, because the 10 chant, and then remember because he took first and second. Yeah. And then,
Yeah,
do you remember Pat Barber and Chris Spieler when they ran up that hill and they dove down? Dude, if I don't even
that's
know if you have
huge.
the footage on your computer, but if people haven't seen this, they need to check this stuff out because the level of competition was just so fierce. And there was no money, there was nothing on the line. It was just literally just pride, you know?
I'm trying to find. So I'm scrolling through it right now. I'm trying to find the Barber one because that finish was all time. Spieler literally
Finish was all
dove to
time,
the finish.
just diving for it. Remember that?
Yeah, but the to build out the one with Froning versus Holmberg, what really jumped out to me was it was real friendly until that point, and then they were like, okay, you two are head to head. Rich was playing for Again Faster at that point, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and he chose the final from the 2010 games, and so they did the push-ups and the overhead squats, and it was a pretty big trouncing, and I was like, oh, this went from friendly to awkward real quick.
Dude, remember we had a tug of war competition? Like, I swear, Dave, we were walking by a park one time, and Dave saw this park, and he's like, "We're gonna do an event here." And part of the event was like me, like jumping over like some bar, you know? Oh, you're
Yeah,
finding the video?
yeah. Here, I've got that one. I'll just do a screen share, and
Let's
we can
do it.
talk
Yeah,
we
this
can
is
talk
good.
over it. But yeah, no, it was all time. And for people who are I'll share computer sound, and for people who are just seeing this for the first time, this is so easy to find. Oop.
Dude, the sport has evolved so much, but this one, I mean, look at everybody. They're just so young and just, you know, it's, oh man. Are you gonna fast forward to where Pat and Spiel?
I don't know if Pat and Spieler are in this one. So this is footage from inside CrossFit Avalanche. So again, like, you know, these were superstars at the time, but here's the playground footage. And so, oh, look at this. You got a young Heather Keenan Bergeron. You got Cammy in the background. Tanya Wagner. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Look at T-Wags in the background. Christy Phillips. Chris Clever. I'll fast forward through this stuff, but look at Hobart.
And so this is a perfect example of like, dude, back then it was just like, hey, let's just test our fitness on some random stuff. And it was a lot, just a completely different time. Um, but dude, I know this one. So this was the playground we just randomly worked out at. But anyways, you know, a lot of this stuff, man, it's funny because we could talk about some of these things for hours and hours and hours, and people don't know there was just so much the at the time it was just like everybody was just trying to figure it out, you know, like where is this sport going to go, what are we really doing? And going to Tahoe was just a really cool moment in the sport where before things got really big, you know, and then all of a sudden we were at Home Depot Center and just really started to grow from there. But you know, taking us back to Aromas, because we're talking about bringing the games to Aromas this
Oh
year.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
You know, I mean, dude, Aromas is such an interesting place. And for those of you who don't know what Aromas is, Aromas was the for the 2007 2008 CrossFit Games was the first. It housed 7, 8, and 9 CrossFit Games, and I was fortunate enough to be in the 8 and 9. But I mean, that place, dude, it's just like, I mean, how do you describe the ranch? It's just like a fitness test. I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, so many things like for me, a lot about the magic of the ranch is the history that's contained there, right? And I said this to you yesterday, and I firmly believe this, and it probably won't go over well with some people, but um, the era of that era of the CrossFit Games was my favorite era. You know, like I feel like when you guys retired, or a lot of you guys retired, Rich moved on to team competition. Like the my fandom didn't stop, of course, but those will always be the glory days for me. And I think it was because, like, especially at the ranch, it was still so experimental. It was still so like, is this okay? I'm not sure if this is okay. Should we do it this way? Should we do it that way? And really, really, really nerding out on what it meant to be the fittest on earth, and what that, like, what was legitimate, what was not legitimate. Formats were being tested and changed. People freak out now about cuts. Remember 2009?
Oh, dude, it was heavy. It was heavy. So to put in perspective, though, in 2008, this is one of the reasons why I think people like that era so much, is because it was so new. And like, I remember in 2008, it was the first time I was ever introduced to a chest to bar pull up, and I
Right.
practiced for so long to get one. I'll never forget, man, because at that point you could just sign up. But I was trying alternating grip, whatever I could do, because I had never touched my chest to a bar before, right? And it's stuff like that that was really exciting because it was so new. Or like the squat clean thruster was so new. Or like the 2008 was every second counts, which was just a very unique structure that probably won't happen again. But I think what people liked about it was just like raw and grungy, and it's
Yep.
exciting to see that go back. You there?
Yeah, and well, even the scoring system. Like, there's another great one. It was amazing to have the debates about what the scoring system should be for a sport like fitness that was just being developed, and there was taking examples from decathlon and other sports where it was like, wow, well, how do I create a scoring system where a 1 rep max deadlift is just as important as a triplet or a an hour long run? Like, how do you get the whole thing apples to apples? And people, again, like, if they're coming into the sport now, I'm guessing that unless they come from a training background or they're really interested in the history of it, they probably just accept it at face value, and they're like, oh, this is how you score the sport. But those were like long debates and iterations that it took to get to the point where it was like, yeah, this makes the most sense in our sport.
Yeah, and back then, like, I rented an RV, and so in '08, I ended up going up there. I won, and then in '09, I rented an RV, and like, it was basically just like RV parks, tents. It was very like you're like sharing milk with like your competitors. Like, it was just very like, there wasn't anything around. Like,
Yeah,
in the middle of nowhere. I remember Panda Express was a sponsor. Remember that?
I do. And what do you remember? Do you know why? Do you know the Panda Express kind of connection?
No,
Okay, so Tom Davin, you're familiar with Tom?
no.
So okay, so Tom Davin, you would know him and you recognize him from 511 Tactical.
Ah,
And so he was in the C-suite of 511, like when they kind of came on big for the 15, 16 games. But Tom was involved with Panda Express, like, as an executive and also a CrossFit enthusiast. And so I think it was just one of those things. It was like, hey, I love CrossFit and I am involved with Panda Express. Would you like me to come out? And
dude.
I didn't go to the tent that year, but I think that it was a big hit.
Oh my God. But like, that's a good example of a random sponsor. And then like, I think Under Armour was there. Remember Under Armour was there in 2009? Whatever
They had
happened
the,
with
the,
them?
the replay board.
Yeah. Whatever happened with them?
I honestly, I think that it was at that point just like a spec thing, and it was like, hey, let's see if this is a good fit. And take into account that like 2008, I was there, I watched you compete. 2009 was the first time I did anything official, but it was official only in the fact that my brother, well, he wasn't my brother-in-law then, but he is now. Um, the husband of the chick that I was after
Yeah.
at that point was making videos, and like, totally self-taught, Jordan Gravatt, Tattooed Media, who's now been really successful in the space. But at that point, they were like, hey, Sevon's making this long form film, but we need stuff on a daily basis. Can you help us with it? And he was like, it would really be helpful if you said something on camera just to kind of tie it together and make it easier to edit. And that was how like my first on camera gig was born with CrossFit stuff. And so at that point, I wasn't even working for CrossFit. It wasn't until after the 2009 games that me and Tony even got in contact, and he was like, hey, would you like a job?
Yeah. It's funny how things evolve. Like, remember, like in 2009 CrossFit Games, like, for people who haven't watched this footage, I mean, Annie Thorzauter gets her first muscle up in the 2009 CrossFit at the games.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
She goes on to win the games in the future. And it's just really interesting how things evolved and how that ranch kind of like paved the way for the whole methodology to develop from. And it was really just like a dirt location off like this road in the middle of nowhere. And the only way you would know where it's at is it's located near this big red barn. That's it. Like, that's the only characteristic, right? I mean, am I wrong there?
No, you're totally right. And yeah, and think of also like the strange kind of chain of events that had to happen, because like I went to school in Southern California. Well, dude, you were in NorCal. You were close to where CrossFit was born. And so it's, for me, it was always easy to think like, gosh, what if I'd have found CrossFit when I was in college and gone up there in the summer times? Maybe I would have played college ball anyways. But yeah, all the stuff that had to coexist, like Castro had to find it. And he's like, oh, wow, Santa Cruz isn't that far away from where I'm at. Because at the end of the day, you're right about everything that it is, but it's Castro's family's ranch,
That's true. Yeah.
It's really a fortuitous thing.
Yeah. When you look at the sport and how it evolved, it's like, oh, Dave gets introduced, right? And at the time he was still in the teams doing all his thing for years, right?
Yep.
And then this is his family's ranch. Oh, let's just have a little throwdown there. And I mean, in 07, I'll never forget, man, I'd watch videos of OPT in his and I remember I would watch videos of him and I would try and battle him on YouTube. Actually, if you YouTube like Khalipa battles OPT, there's another guy named Bionic. So this dude out of Florida named Bionic, and I would battle them on YouTube because there was no such thing as like I don't know.
Are you serious? But in 2007?
In 2007, I would start battling them on YouTube. If you look up Khalipa versus Bionic, it's pretty bad. But dude, if you watch some of these videos, it's just so horrendous.
Oh, that's funny. I tried to do it and I messed it up, and it says it brought up Wiz Khalifa.
Oh yeah. But if you look up Khalipa versus Bionic, I would go on there and just battle these dudes. I'd be like, oh, this is 5 clean and jerks, 1 round of Cindy, AMRAP or whatever. And, you'd squat to a medicine ball and just all this stuff. I just look at my movement. It's just horrendous back then, but how it's evolved. I mean, keep in mind, right? Think about, and I'm curious where you think it's going to go. I mean, back in 09, if you snatched 200 pounds, you were like a baller, right? And now it's 200 pounds is nothing,
Oh yeah, dude.
You kind of pull up that video.
Yeah, I'm on it. Why is it doing this?
I don't know.
You tell me if it comes up. I might just not be able
there
to.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't do with sound.
Oh yeah, this is a sick. Oh man.
So this one's Bionic versus Khalipa / OPT 1222. So did you post this? Oh, Omar Torres is.
No, that's Bionic. That's Bionic right there.
Look at video was sped up to fit on YouTube. That's back when YouTube had time restrictions.
Yeah, but dude, so I watched this and then I would watch
this movement. I see. So he posted this and then you would have a response video.
Yeah.
Look at those legs. Look at those legs spread all out.
That'd be a no rep these days.
All right, let me see if I can find your response. Here we go.
Oh yeah, put up that one. Look, watch this one. Oh my God, watch these
guys. That guy.
Bro, that's look at that rig. That rig is a pull-up rig built out of I actually built the same thing at our first.
Wait, what happened with those first 2 pull-ups, dude? That was I'm not sure if I want to do chest to bar or wait, where am I going?
That was the early days of competing where you used to just, but look at this was Cindy, right? Obviously. Yep. And then for those people who are listening, it's we were in this racquetball court that was converted to a CrossFit gym. And, here I am squatting to a medicine ball. And then if you fast forward or whatever, if you watch my clean and jerks, they are so horrendous at 135. But what we would do is just battle back and forth. And this was the early days. So when I showed up in the 08 games, I saw these guys and I was like, oh.
But look, this is why you won the 2008 games. Look still how easy it is with bad form for you. That's a strict press, bro. Just bam.
But so when I rolled up to the 08 games, man, I'm just sitting there and, you see these guys. And at the time they were oh, there's OPT. And he was wearing these blue shorts with lightning bolts coming up. I'll never forget. And he got OPT. He was wearing his orange shades, Florida style. But that was, it was long before there was a lot of media around people. So you kind of hyped him up to be more than, anyways, that was a long time ago.
Well, it's funny. I told you I was kind of walking down memory lane of the main site even. And yeah, it's pretty amazing to see. Let me see. I've got 2006, 2005, 4.
Oh yeah. And
but it's I'm looking at, so you're looking at the main site here. I'll share this. And here's a lot of people I've heard saying, wow, this is just like it used to be, talking about where we're at with COVID-19.
Yeah.
And but I don't think they even realize, like, look at this, 428 comments. Like the main site used to be the place that you would go,
Right.
and people are posting results. This is like before Facebook was really that popular or utilized, right?
So for people that don't know, back in the day, this was like '06 for me, '07. You'd go on there and you'd put in like M. So like I would do M, 210 pounds RX, right? And what that would mean is like I'm a male, I weigh this, and I did it RX. And people would just
Yeah.
comment on there. And then you'd start like picking people you'd want to like battle with and hold you accountable. And that was back in the day. You used to do the same thing, right? Did you ever do that?
Absolutely. I did do that, but in fact, I was far less competitive with it and far less ready to put my scores up. But even then, it was like I was even part of the message boards, man. Like, back when message boards were a thing,
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, that was the way that you kind of like tracked people and followed them. And I was thinking about that was funny too. Where did you take your level one?
I took it in San Diego. I took my level one in San Diego.
Oh, did I freeze or did you freeze?
I think you. I don't know. We both froze. I took my level one in San Diego though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. See, me too. Me too. And it was I never forget seeing Adrian Bosman, um, Greg Amundsen, Mally, um, CJ Martin was, I didn't really know him that well at that time, but like literally seeing Greg Amundsen for me was like people who see Froning or you or
Right.
Matt Fraser right now. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh damn, dude, that's homeboy that I've been following on the web. Like that's the dude.
Yeah. And then sometimes they do like the workouts at the level ones. And I remember, so I got mine in '08, or I got my level one in early '08, and I did Fran and everybody, did the whole thing. But I also went to a Bergner seminar and I learned how to snatch in like
Yeah.
'07, '08 at CrossFit HQ in Santa Cruz. So that was kind of cool because I actually got to see the headquarters before before.
Is that the footage I've got of you?
What's that?
Is that no, this is the new
No,
set.
that was a video. No, the picture, what we did is I remember, my coach at the time, Austin Begeeving, he's like, dude, you got to come learn how to snatch. And I'll never forget, Bergeron at the time, like he really was innovative in the sense, like we were using a PVC pipe. Bergner. Yeah. I was so used to using, weights and always wanted to go heavy. He would just have us the PVC pipe and he was just grinding us all day. And, he was really innovative at the time because he shared a lot of knowledge from Olympic lifting with so many different people that then spawned. And if you think about the amount of content that people have today compared to back then, back then there wasn't as much readily available information. So you had to, you know what I mean? It just wasn't as much available. Now it's always available.
Yeah. Or and in another way that I think of it is it was more of like a single point of contact. Like if you wanted good Olympic lifting knowledge, you had to go there. Like this is maybe a really terrible example, but I use it anyways. In this time when I find that I've got additional time and I'm trying to stay productive, like I really want to brush up on languages and I'm trying to learn guitar. If you want to learn guitar nowadays, you can find a bajillion people who are teaching it for better or worse on YouTube. But yeah, back then it was like you didn't have that crazy resource. YouTube wasn't what it is right now. There wasn't like, the web was far less proliferated than it was. So yeah, you had to really, and especially for things like this that are super niche, like Olympic lifting, you had to look hard to find that stuff.
So were you involved in the conversations of when they took it from Aromas to then the Home Depot Center?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know who's integral to that process actually?
Tony,
I know you're a fan of, the Bubs. Sean Lake, who ended up starting Bubs, his history is in more like snowboarding and snow sports and DC shoes, and he really helped get that deal done as well. But yeah, I was absolutely involved in that, mostly as trying to put out the fires, because honestly, the reason that happened was because Aromas, the city of Aromas, said you can't have this competition here.
dude, that's what it was, right? Because remember we had in '09 there was like 5,000 people there or something like that, and it just overdid the city. Is that what happened?
They basically wouldn't give the permits, and I don't even think. I mean, the city would have benefited from it. I think it was a really arbitrary point. It was not spawned from any problems. I think it was literally just they said, no, we're just not going to grant you this license. Maybe they wanted to get a kickback from it. Who knows? But the bottom line was they wouldn't give the certificate. And so instead of balling up in the fetal position, everybody was like, well, let's go big.
And so then, yeah, because I mean,
Which is
so
a
when you
baller move.
dude, the Home Depot Center was a super bold move, but as you went from Aromas to there, I mean, dude, the level was just like, it went 10x. Aromas is like this backyard dirt, and then the Home Depot Center. I remember walking into that stadium just thinking, oh my gosh, like we are superstars. It was such a crazy feeling, man. That was a huge jump for the sport, and I'm really interested, because it went to Madison and now it's going back to Home Depot, to the Aromas. I'm curious if it stays at Aromas. I wonder what the future holds for the games. I don't know.
I mean, it's so linked to, and this is, man, just all of us can kind of pontificate on it as much as we want. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with what happens to CrossFit HQ and how they bounce back from this massive crisis, because the games isn't hugely profitable. And, at least in conversations recently, Greg has said that he's not passionate about it, or that was obviously clearly indicated by the moves that he made in letting all of us go out into the wild. And so, yeah, gosh, man, I don't even know. Even this year, and you can talk to it probably better as an athlete. Well, you've got all sides of it: athlete, business owner, and somebody who's got vested interest in the space. But I mean, there are so many logistical questions about who you bring. Even though it was cool to see a statement that said, yeah, we're going to try and do the games this year, it was still pretty vague. It's like, is it age groups? Is it teams? Is it whatever?
Yeah, super vague. And, I mean, it's a tough time for everybody right now. But I mean, taking us back in the day, because
Yeah.
right now it's just so vague that I don't know how much you can really speak on it. But back in the day, like in '07, what I thought was really interesting in '07 that maybe some people don't know is some of the events were created by, because at the level one, for those people that go there, there's this whole idea of like the hopper model. And the hopper model is basically, if you take a variety of different tests and you put them in a hopper and you mix it all around, over time, the fittest person, let's just say one item is a 10K run, you have the endurance athlete win that. But then over time, if you have enough tests, the most fit person in that group will win. And in '07, they utilized that to create the final workout, which I think was really interesting. I wonder if they'll ever bring that back. I don't know.
I mean, if it would, at some point it would have to be limited, right? Because you would have to have the equipment, you would have to have the space. Because if you're really truly talking about the theory, an actual peanut hopper couldn't carry everything. It'd be like
Right.
shoveling sand, and like you couldn't put any physical task that you could ever imagine into it. Maybe you'd have like a computer generated hopper, which would be amazing. But again, like in all this stuff, I don't think some people don't recognize, like, you've been involved in running events, and there's so many logistics behind the scenes just to make sure that things happen on time and like people in the right place at the right time. So a hopper you would have to be like either community votes on what goes into the hopper, and then so it would be somewhat limited in what comes out, like, or the hopper decides is it task priority or time priority, or it decides like maybe one or two of the movements or the weight or
Yeah.
whatever. Like DT, like heavy DT or double DT would have been an interesting hopper one, but it's
Right.
not true to the theory, but it would have been a fun spectator thing.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the time domains, it's really interesting. As the sport evolved, the time got better. Like, oh, you're going to be on at this time and this time. In the beginning, like in '08, '09, '10, like, dude, literally, you would just be sitting there the entire day from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. You'd be sitting there, and Dave would come up to us and be like, all right, guys, we're going in 20 minutes, right? I remember like in 8, 9, 10, like I literally wouldn't eat. I wouldn't eat. I'd be nibbling on little bars because you never knew when you had to work out. I didn't want to have a giant meal and then 10 minutes later go throw down,
Totally. And that was my favorite thing about 16 when they took people back to the ranch, and it was like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
your coaches aren't coming, you're going to the ranch. And it was still better organized than it was back in the day, but it was a little flavor of that, of like, where can I warm up? And they're like, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
am I going? We'll let you know.
Oh man, when they seclude you in these, like, remember, for those, back in the day, I think it was like 2010 or 11, they put us in like a little like bank vault basically. And then you walked out and we had to do push-ups on like 120-degree, dude, dude, like people, like it was just a time in history.
That's a great one. That's a great one, actually.
You remember that one?
Oh, dude. Well,
Yeah.
even the way in which it was presented to you, where it was like Castro did the brief and then said 3, 2, 1, go, and people looked around because they were like right now, like, is it going? And the smart ones like just dove to it, and then somebody saw him going, and they would go, and people were like, yeah, people were finding the shade. Like some people were crawling over like next to the obstacles and trying to find a little piece of shade. It was lawless, dude. It was amazing.
That was only the top 16. People talk about the cuts being an issue. Back in the day, dude, you had massive cuts, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't know what it was in 09. I can't remember. But I mean, I think they only took like top 10 of the final event.
You know what? Let's find out. But
Because
I remember it was progressive in that same sense.
Yeah, because what was tough for me, like I remember in 09, right? You start off with 75 people and then it dropped down to like 10 or 15 or whatever it was. And so I remember my goal was always to be like, I got to make past the cuts,
Yeah.
And it added a whole different layer to the sport early on. Obviously this year they brought back some cuts and we'll see what they do in the future.
Yeah, it went all the way. So yeah, it did. It went down to top 10.
Really?
That's funny. Even this leaderboard has like bib numbers. It still doesn't even have like lettering.
Oh.
It's like a PDF. So yeah, you started with 75 people or something. It looks like we were like cut down to 50, cut down to, man, I can't even do that.
Well, what's interesting, in 08, you got to pick when you did your workouts. So some people don't know that is in 08, you basically signed up for the games. I think 300 people signed up. And then there was, they announced 3 events and you got to pick in what order, or not pick, but you got to, hey, I want to do this one, this one, this one. So there was a chest bar plan, running the hill, and then a burpee deadlift. Those were the 3 events.
Oh, that's right.
Based on your total time, then the next day you went back for the final event. Dude, it was just so, and then remember Matt Mertzke created his own clean. Remember that one?
Oh, dude. Poor guy. Poor guy. Because I remember him being a good dude, but he just got dumped on.
Bro. Wait, do you remember it as well as I do or no?
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. Well, and it was in the footage too. So actually, that's a good point too. And I want to bring up the comeback kid thing for you in a second, but all of the 2009 games are easily they're even on YouTube now, but you can watch the full games with some great interviews from back then. So if you guys haven't seen it, you have to see that.
Oh, dude. So the Matt Mertzke one is really great because I was sitting there with Austin, who was my coach at the time, and the final event had in 08, right? This was 08, right? Mertzke, I think, was 08.
That was 9. That was 2009.
Oh, well, whatever happened.
Okay. I remember, because it was in every second count. Yeah.
I remember watching him, and he was like dropping the bar and then catching it like halfway up. And I remember looking at my coach, being like, "Dude, I gotta do that. I gotta do that." And then next thing you know, Dave yells from across the room and says, "Guys, every one of Matt's reps don't count." He must have been like 8 of them in, right? Do you remember that? Dude, he just screamed it. Oh.
That was sweet. It was so funny, and it was contentious too. I think that was the first time that I kind of recognized that Dave Castro is just fresh out of F's to give,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Because what he was doing was he was dropping from the top, the bar would bounce, then he would catch it at like mid-thigh and then go into his next clean or whatever it was, instead of like holding it from the ground. And the judge didn't know how to react to it because they had never seen it before.
Right. And it wasn't briefed, you know what I mean? Like,
oh man.
Or was it? Did Dave, you were in the briefing? Did Dave
No, I mean, who the hell's gonna say, "Hey, the bar can't grab it"?
Right. And his whole thing was like, it's the most efficient way to do it, right?
Oh man, dude. Yeah, but see, those kind of things won't really happen because I mean, it just like I don't know. I just remember from across the room, he's just yelling. Oh man, I felt so bad for Matt at that point. But,
so bummed. I can't find it right now. But
yeah, but the 09 game had a lot of like drama to it, right? Remember Miko, dude? So Miko wins the event, and so I ended up ticking 5th for a variety of reasons. But anyways, Miko wins. And do you remember he doesn't speak English at the time? And all he says at the end was, "Where's my money?"
Dude, he was, I gotta say, one of the best champions ever. Like, cause he was so mysterious, you know, he was so Terminator.
It was so Terminator. Tight shirt. Remember his tight shirt? Oh,
Yes, dude.
and
And then Miko kind of,
and he
he
tucked
had a,
it in.
and he had a bad rap in, he just got a bad break in 2010. And then it all seemed to kind of go downhill for him because he was such like, people loved him, man. People absolutely loved him. I remember even, true or false, you had some takeaways. Like one thing that Miko did
Oh,
was would never lay on his back. And he said that in a video. And then all of a sudden, like everybody's like, well, yeah, that's a good point. Like, I don't want to do that either.
dude, Miko's on video. He's like, "I never lay on my back. Only animals lay on their back."
Only an animal. That's like, hey, he was basically saying that's how an animal submits.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
oh, you idiots, or show me your little tummy. Like you're basically big pussies.
But like Miko, dude, he finished the event, tucked in shirt, tight shirt, and I just, he's just sitting there, no real smile on his face, nothing, and he's just like, "What is my money?" Dude. Oh man.
So I'm gonna screen share this one because this is your 2000. This is a little piece of your 2009.
Oh gosh.
And unfortunately, I can't figure out how to play the actual full sound. But so like, here's the actual post.
Yeah.
Jason Khalipa, the comeback kid. And it tells a little bit of a story. And here's what's funny for anybody who's listening who doesn't know. It's an awkward URL, but you have to do, if you want to see the 2010 or 2009 or even 2008 game site, you have to type games2000year.crossfit.com and you can still
Oh,
find
okay. I didn't know that. That's cool.
So it's archived, just not archived well. And you can't really search. You can't search. There's no search functionality. You have to kind of figure it out. But so anyways, and still it's old enough to where when you click on these links, it downloads the video. Like it won't stream on the site.
Oh, no way.
So I already downloaded it though. So here's just we can talk over this because it won't play the sound.
Oh, okay.
But tell people why it was the comeback kid. This is the year after you won.
So the year after I won, oh yeah, it's playing the audio.
Oh, sweet. Okay, great.
Yeah. So
you want to watch it? It's just 2 minutes. Let's watch. It's 2 minutes.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. So this was the first event. It was a 10K run. Remember that one?
I don't realize how much pressure is on the guys that are on the website all the time. It's a lot of pressure, and he's a young guy. He might have got a little overzealous in the first half, but Jason Khalipa came down looking like crap. Came around the corner, collapsed. We don't know what happened, but it's not looking good.
Down goes Khalipa.
Workout, both great test of fitness. I think it's really going to weed out the good from the maybe not as good.
Yeah, Jason Khalipa finished. He got back up. He's wrecked. They have approximately a half hour now. It's going to be, good money I don't think is on him right now.
Oh, man.
You remember it? Like,
oh, yeah.
72nd out of 74. And look at you, dude. You're a puddle of mud.
Thanks for bringing it back up.
It'll be an extraordinary feat for him to get back. They have approximately a half hour now.
You have to make cuts. If you're in dead last after 2 events, you're probably not going to come back. We're trying to select for the fittest man alive. I'm not going to make excuses.
Oh, man.
Good memories right here, dude. Look at you.
Dude, so I'll shine some light on a few of those events right now. So in 09, it's really interesting because in 09, what was really unique about it at the time was that there was a few events. So the first one was the 7K hill run. That was obviously super difficult. And I was just overzealous, man. I was listening to Eminem in my headphones. I was all fired up. I just came off I was just a champion coming in. And dude, I couldn't control the nerves. And I started coming, we were on this one hill run and I'm climbing up this hill, man. I got poison oak all over my hands and I'm running down. I just lose it and I just pass out. Boom. And
felt it coming from a mile away.
Oh yeah. I felt it. I mean, dude, cause I was going up this hill. All my energy had been spent doing other stuff. And I just had no more energy, couldn't handle myself. And then boom, Next thing you know, I'm running down, and I just passed out. And I'll never forget. Dave just comes up to me. He's like, dude, if you don't get up and finish, your games are over. And I was like, all right. So I finished the race. I mean, I basically finished last. But, as those events went on, you had to climb out of the mud. But that year was also the first year. Remember they had the sledgehammer that you had to slam into the floor?
Oh, yeah.
And there was some controversy on whose floor was easier and whose wasn't. Remember that?
Just like, yeah, sled pushes this year, man.
Yeah. So exactly. So, I mean, dude, over time, man, but it's just like in 2009, it was just one of those years where like I learned a lot about myself. I mean, dude, passing out and then come back. And a lot of people have had those moments like in sport that they just learn about themselves and they kind of progress on. But 2009 was one of those years for sure, man, because the sport had built up some momentum. You had a few sponsors there. It was a big deal. It's funny.
And so, well, let's talk about another favorite memory. And listen, we're going to play some of your greatest hits after this too.
Oh gosh, we got to save some stuff for more episodes.
You know where I'm going with this?
Of course. Of course I know where you're going with this. You're going after the Amanda one. That was
yeah, all right, here we go. For those of you who don't know, like, so Jason learned these lessons about himself, but the next year showed up. And again, like, it's been a million years for me too. So what happened the next year?
So the next year I show up and, are you going to play it?
I mean, I'll just show some clips, people want to know.
Oh man.
So, well, first of all, this is to your point about the Home Depot Center. This is what that looked like.
That was a big change, right?
Yeah, and so like for us, and I got to tell you, and from a production side of things, having these like the athletes walked out and we played clips about them, and then people like saw it on the big boards and stuff. This was next level for us from a media perspective too. Like we thought we had absolutely made it. And so, you had legends like Spieler.
Dude, that was.
You had.
Oh man, look at those stands! I feel like I'm watching like an '80s clip, like back in the day.
Look at that! Got some 2008 footage in there. It is back in the day. And so 2010 games start with snatches and muscle ups. At the time, still, honestly. High level for a lot of people. Like Amanda it was a difficult workout. It was a scary workout, right?
Yeah. Back
everything's going well.
Complexity there, right?
And there's Jason center left of your screen, and everything's going well until about I think 11 minutes. So tell me what you're feeling like here.
So at that point, I just went numb, man. Like, dude, I was racing, I was winning, I was doing great. And then all of a sudden my body went numb and I just couldn't control myself. Again, a great example of, just a great example of not learning how to control my nerves. And I just end up just doing burpee bar chasers for the rest of the event.
Right. Cause here you are first back to the rings after the first round. And so at that point,
there's no one in the stands.
You had another trip. And so I'll fast forward just a bit because it was sooner than later. Jason starts in the lead. Things are falling apart a little bit, but you still got the lead going into the final round.
Oh, man. This is my 9-9, bro. Oh, it started to hit me on the muscle ups where I started to feel like my body, I couldn't control it, and I was going too fast. And then by the time I got back to the barbell, I just didn't have the motor skills to get it going.
All right. And so for first time fans, I mean, God, I got to imagine most people have seen this, but maybe I'm just biased.
Oh man.
And can you hear the play-by-play too?
Yeah, a little bit.
Justin Judkins and Marty Say back in the day. Okay. Here's Jason back to the bar. Final 5.
Last 5 reps and the body just
dark.
I lost all. I think I had like 2 or 3 more reps to go.
Number 3 or 5, but look how fast you pop up, dude.
Oh no.
Was that a good rep? Was that a bad rep? Oh.
No, that was a bad rep, dude. All these were. Look at Miko. Oh man.
Just got you in the background. That's 3 failed reps in a row, dude, and just no stopping to be like, let me take a breath or anything. So these are is of Khalipa, like when it was just go, 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 go.
Oh man. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. If you guys haven't seen it, it's Amanda from
hold on. We got to see. I got to see the traveling one. That's my favorite one.
is right here.
Okay.
I think.
you're like
At this
that's
point, I'm
quite
already.
enough. Thank you.
Let's see. Right
And,
here. Let's see. Oh, dude.
and
Just
I'm running
done.
with the bar
Right
and
here.
camera.
Oh.
I love you. Thank you for
Dude.
letting me share that.
But what that was just me, learning a lot about myself. Like that day, the Jets had flown over. They sang the national anthem. I had drank a Red Bull. It was like at 9:00 at night. I was all fired up and just couldn't control. It was just too complex of skills. And that was just like, dude, I laid on the floor there for like probably an hour. I laid on the floor. And then finally a buddy of mine had to come pick me up and they had to cart me to my car.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised you stayed in the competition, frankly,
Oh man, that was a long time ago. But did you see the stands? So they were like empty at the time. Now it's grown to, dude, isn't that crazy?
What a trip. So one more before we move, like, or whatever. Maybe
Why do
we
you
never
keep
move
pulling
on.
up ones of me? Why don't you pull up someone else?
What's that?
Why do you keep pulling up me? Why don't you pull up somebody else?
Okay, all right. Well, I wanted the next one I was going to celebrate. I was going to do the burden run. Like
The burden run was good, but I think, dude, for 'cause that was a long time coming. But the sport, just to kind of sum up this 30-minute just babbling about the sport of CrossFit, it's came a long way. But what is something from the 07, 08, 09 games that people wouldn't normally know? What's something that, like, if you're a coach out there listening, if you're a gym owner, you wouldn't even know this happened?
Man, I think the magnitude of it, like how small it was, it's especially 2008. I've told this story before, but it's one of the closest to my heart was at the 2008 games. I was actually living in San Diego at the time, heard about it, and I had been a coach at an affiliate for maybe 2 years. And I was like, I literally wrote an email to my membership and was like, hey guys, there's this cool competition. I saw it on main site. Like, we should go check it out. Anybody want to go with me? The only response that I ended up getting was from Angie, who is now my wife. And she was like, hey, I'll be up there because it's 4th of July weekend and my dad lives up there anyways. And so I ended up hanging out with her, but I slept in the back of my truck at the ranch. And that was something you could do. There was no tickets. There was no, like, nobody was checking on me. And literally was as they briefed you guys on what the final was going to be and sent you on your way. And but then literally Adrian Bosman and Dave Castro set up the entire competition floor. And so I was that night, and I was literally sitting there drinking beer in the back of my truck, watching them work. And so I couldn't not ask. And I was like, hey, you guys want some help? Like, can I help out? And they were like, nah, man, we got this. Like, thanks, but no thanks.
Oh man, dude,
And
that's good.
so like it was and you talk to, like, if most of the people that or don't know, if you're new to the sport, who are great coaches, seminar staff, trainers who have been around for a minute, were probably judges of that CrossFit Games. You look back, like Chuck Carswell was a judge of Annie's first muscle up, so that memory was a fantastic one. And the just the rawness, like that, actually building that thought out. Annie Thor's daughter getting her first muscle ups, and I guess that's at the 2009 games. She and this guy Sven, there's still a documentary. It's in Icelandic, but it's subtitled. Where they came down because they're really good at, like, boot camp type stuff. They were literally boot camp athletes.
That's right.
So like they could do push-ups for days. You could put sandbags on their back while they're holding a plank for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
But when it came to anything complicated, dude, they learned not just a muscle up, they learned how to do GHD sit-ups for the first time. Annie learned how to snatch for the first time.
And there's a documentary on that?
There is a documentary on that. I don't know where it lives. Annie actually sent it to me recently, so I don't know if it's, like, publicly available.
See, I had no idea that you could look up 2009.CrossFit or 2009 games.CrossFit, go back in the archive. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it goes games2009.crossfit.com or games2010.crossfit.com. I think, this is what I wanted to talk about, dude. I think this would be a great memory. Speaking of 2010 in particular, so we felt like superstars once we got to the Home Depot Center. But I think that year more than any was, like, one of the more gritty, because it was the year that we did that's the year we did sectionals to regionals. And so people don't get that, man. I'm like, I'll show you this.
Dude, the
So
sanction
this
is
is
a whole different thing, and people don't really know about that. And
right.
dude, we held ours. I was one of the sanctional like team members, whatever, and we held it at a high school, and it ended up becoming a big mess. But yeah, look at that.
Look at
2010,
that.
there was sanctionals
So
to
there
get
was like,
the games.
these were basically, this was before the Open. And so it's funny, people who didn't know about the Open, this was what came before was you had to go to an in-person event. So it was like a qualifier for to get to regionals to qualify for the games. And so that's another really funny thought that comes from that is if you're new to the sport or even in the past, like let's just call it the Open era, people don't know that the Open was one of the most contentious things. And by the way, like credit where credit's due, one of the first successful online competitions that I had ever seen for just about anything, right?
Yeah, for hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah.
And all of us, like you and me included, were, well, I'll speak for myself. I thought that they were nuts. I was like, this is bullshit. There's no way this is going to work. Like it's stupid. People are going to cheat. It's not going to work. Like how are we going to do the logistics? And I would say that at this point it's a pretty successful situation. So, but it's funny. Like if you look through the 2010 CrossFit Journal or main site, there's tons of videos of people debating like an online format, like what, this is never going to work. And now people are like, oh yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'll do that with Zoom, like, of course.
The innovation that occurred through that was really interesting. Like the sanctional idea and then regional idea, it had some legs to it. And what was interesting about the sanctionals back in the day is that you got to choose your own workouts and stuff. There was no consistency. And so I was on the team for the NorCal regionals or sanctional, and like we just created our own workouts. And then they became streamlined, which I think was a much better idea. So you can compare regionals and there was some consistency. But back in the day, man, we would just come up with stuff and we just tested them. And it was, oh man, that was a really interesting time in the sport of fitness. And
It was.
yeah, if you haven't checked out this stuff, go back into the archives. If you have some time right now, you're quarantining at home. It's just fun to kind of like look at it. And like, it started off as like, I got into this sport because I like to throw down in my garage. I like to throw down with people. And that's exactly what you can still do right now. So if you haven't checked out this stuff, kind of reminisce. It started off really grungy, and hell, we're back in grunginess. It's all good.
Totally. Yeah. And for people who are curious, the what I just showed you guys was, so this is games2010.crossfit.com. And then you click on this, select a 2010 games event. And then you can actually these are all linked.
Oh, you can actually go into them.
Yeah. You can see like Ohio where Dan Bailey, competed.
Oh man.
So,
all right.
yeah.
Go to games2010.crossfit. I'm going to go there after this, but Rory, I think we gotta keep, this was just an episode just to, for lack of a better term, just bullshit about back in the day, get some people, especially like the OG, like owners and coaches, just to kind of like think back about some of these things, just kind of like, it might just like, it's a, oh, I get faster. I remember that. And dude, we got to do this again, man. But I really appreciate your time. And I hope you and the family are staying safe and doing well,
Anytime, buddy. I could do this for days, not just hours. So you just let me know and I'll be there. And we are. And likewise back to you guys, man. It's strange times, but we're all pretty lucky to be where we're at.
Let's do it, brother. All right, man. Well, hey, I know everybody knows where to find you, but if they want to find you on IG, it's Roy McKernan.
It's Rory McKernan. I'm not creative, so I just use my first and last name. It's YouTube as well. I'm like, can't get fancy. Just stick with what I know.
I love it, brother. All right, man. Well, have a great day, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay, Jace. Talk soon.